Good morning. This is really unusual. The whole board is here. Tom, you're not sitting at home kind of watching TV and us at the same time?
Roads are good, I'm here.
Very good. I'm glad we cleaned the roads up for you today. Okay, good. Let's have a roll call, please.
Wrecker here.
Yes.
Bochenski. Here. Broussard.
Here.
Carlsrud. Here. Dardis.
Here.
Erdman.
Here.
Idso.
Here.
Mahoney.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Nielsen. Here. Schmaltz.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Brecker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good. Jeff Brecker is here for Levon Elkhoff, and will be taking her position. Is that right? Levon has had some health issues, so unfortunately she will not be doing that role for a while. Is there a motion to approve the order of agenda?
Also move.
Is there a second?
Second, Schmidt.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda approved. There's a motion to approve the minutes of the February 19, 2026 meeting.
So moved, Dardis.
Is there a second?
Wrecker, second.
Thank you. Yeah, for a secretary, it's really nice that you say your name so they get it right. Appreciate that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mary Meridian, financial report, statement tab B.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Directors. If you would please turn to tab D, as Mayor Mahoney has stated. This is, let's see, tab B. This is the 2026 budget statement of analysis, and it's through February 28th. So Lake Agassiz approved budget, income budget was $544,940. And there has been no income received yet to date, so the balance of the budget is still $544,000. If you go down to the expenses, the approved expense budget was $543,788.25, and $54,492 have been expended, leaving an expense budget of $489,296. Lake Agassiz started the year with $72,062 in the bank, and after bank fees, total funds available was $71,923. And then you'll see the expenses that were paid and listed there, and the ones, the 4 checks written in yellow are the ones that have been paid since your last meeting. So that's leaving an ending bank balance as of February 28th of $17,431. And then also copies of those bills that are highlighted are in the following pages.
So Mayor, we need a motion to pay the bills.
Motion to accept the financial statement.
Okay, do I have that motion?
Broussard, so moved.
Is there a second? Okay, roll call vote, please.
I guess I have a question,
Yeah,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman. When do we send out the notice for the dues? I see there's no revenue that has come in, but I'm not sure what the time frame is that we send out to the community.
Correct.
The members or the entities.
So at the February 19th Lake Agassiz meeting, you guys had approved sending out the dues, so they did go out the following week, and this is through February 20th, so as of then, none of the dues had come in yet, but they have been sent out.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Brecker.
Yes.
Bigwood.
Yes.
Bochenski.
Yes.
Broussard.
Yes.
Carlsrud.
Yes.
Dardis.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Idso.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mary,
Okay,
you're up.
yep, and then tab D is just the dues that have been paid in previous years. We showed from 2018 on, and as Mayor Erdman had stated that there were no dues yet for 26, but the due statements have been sent out. And that is just for your information.
Okay. Then tab E, what do you want, consultant
Ye-
billing summary?
Yep, and same with tab E, that's in there for your information, and if there were any questions, I'd probably have Kurt Ronnekamp come up and answer those.
Thank you. Any questions on the consultant billing? If not, we'll go to our committee reports. Al Grasser is excited to give our attack report here and tell them what you guys have been up to.
Thank you, Chairman Mahoney and members of the board. Al Grasser here again, the chair of the Technical Advisory Committee. We did meet on March 19th. We met by Zoom. We weren't in person. We did it all remote. We had a construction update from the Garrison Diversion staff. Not a lot happened here during the winter, and so it was, rather brief. I think the one takeaway that I'll mention out of some of the information we got is that they are targeting a goal of putting 14 miles of pipe in the ground here this coming up construction season. So we're really ramping up. Things will be moving coming up this season. One of the first action items that we had was actually change order number 2. That's on contract 5D, Carstensen. And that is, I think, tab F in your packets. Really, they're adjusting prices, some up, some down. The change order itself is a zero-cost change order, and it's just kind of bringing the contract up to date as to some of the different moving parts within the contract. So Technical Advisory Committee did approve that, sending that on for approval to the full board. Any particular questions on that one?
Any questions? I think we're good. I think we'll vote on all three of yours at one time, Al.
Perfect. We did also have an update on the McCluskey Canal and the Biota Water Treatment Plant. There's a lot of moving parts on that. The designers are really just getting into issues with water quality and how to manage it, how to treat it, things like that. We did talk about maybe supplementing the Technical Advisory Committee with some folks that know more about chemistry, things like that. I'm thinking water treatment plant operators and stuff that can really understand the technicalities of chemistry, I'll say is a big component of it. So just so you know, we're going to have some further discussions on that. We're going to interact, I think, fairly closely with all the other design engineers. And I'll just leave it at that. There's more in your packets, and there's another potentially more detailed update coming later on in the presentation. So just letting you know, we're going to be involved in some of that at the technical level. See, the next item that we brought up had to do with task orders. And before we get into the actual task orders, we had a discussion. We've changed some governance and things like that. The board, we're kind of in a dynamic now where we're trying to figure out how Garrison Diversion and Law Water are all gonna interact. And I think the change that I want to point out to the board is that on all of these task orders we talked about, we want to see those things come in earlier to the committee and to the board before action is just taken on some of this on the consultant level. So I think we're going to see a little bit more, I hate to use the word management, but that's the word that comes to mind, just kind of managing the whole consulting process again. So we're comfortable with what's being done and the financial commitment that's going on at the time. So even though we're approving these task orders, they're not going to be a set it and release. We're going to work with the consulting teams as far as doing the specific things in specific points in time. I don't know, hopefully that makes sense. So anyway, we're gonna have our fingers a little closer into what's going on. So the first task order that we had is task order 1520. That has to do with operational planning. And again, that's in tab G in your packet. And I'm only going to probably point out that under some of that, the planning operational phase 3, there's been some work done requested by Fargo and Grand Forks specifically. If you remember back 6 months ago, we did some runs about what if we do this, what if we do that, return flows, bypass, some of those kinds of things. And to do that work, the consulting team didn't bring in a task order to do that. They did the work, but in doing so, there's some other activities that they had planned that they didn't get accomplished with those budgets. So some of this money is basically paying for work that's already done and I'll call it recapitalizing kind of what they otherwise would have done. So I think that's all fine. That was part of what all went into the 1520. I'll note that the dollar amount of that was $712,272, and I think that actually had been negotiated down from some larger number, previously. They've been working with Department of Water Resources and cities, et cetera. So anyway, that task order was recommended for approval to the board by the Technical Advisory Committee. If there's questions on that, I might have to call for some backup.
Any questions?
Just one.
Mr.
So
Bozzinski?
the amendment's just this 94,000 that we're seeing here. So that was an old task order previously, and this is just amending that?
Yeah, I don't want to speak that I know the exact dollar amount, but there's a good chunk of that, substantial piece of that was work that was already done. But again, it's also moving things forward from an operational planning.
Okay, but what we're approving tonight is the 94,242?
Yes.
All right.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure where I got that 712 from. That's the entire task order, yeah.
Yeah, that was yep, okay.
Let's go to our next task order, Al.
Okay, this is operational task order 4A. So this is task order 1620, I believe, Brent? Yeah. So again, this was task order, this is, a lot of these dollars are going to be going towards supporting the committees and technical support, updating information that has generally been generated over the past 6 months or a year, whatever, and assisting us in some analyses that the committees might ask for moving forward. Actually, this is where we talked about some of that, some of those dollars are going into the Fargo and Grand Forks bypass. This particular item, again, we talked about the process of what happens when, and for instance, I think some of these larger planning activities like the coordinating the discharge with the Corps as far as the operations of the Red Lake Dam, I think Grand Forks might get more involved in that as opposed to handing some of that over to a consultant, just because that really impacts Grand Forks primarily. So this particular task order was $166,000. Tab H, should have mentioned that earlier on your packet, and the committee did recommend approving that task order.
Can I have a motion to approve 1, 2, and 3 from the TAC committee, please? Is there a second?
Schmidt seconds.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions of Al?
Just got one comment. Just wanted to congratulate and thank Mr. Grasser. He's been the city engineer for the city of Grand Forks for a very, very long time, done a phenomenal job. He's going to be retiring on April 11th. I say a company man and all the best aspects of that, and just, we've got to tell you thank you at the commission or at the city council, but just wanted to tell you thank you one more time here. He has agreed to stick on longer and help out on the TAC. I don't know how long we'll keep him. I think Hawaii's calling his name too, but in the meantime, just, on behalf of this committee and also the city of Grand Forks, thank you, Al, for a job well done.
Thank you very much.
It's really kind of dangerous because when you look at Bruce Grubb, he's changed his life entirely when he retired, Al, so good luck with that. Roll call vote, please.
Brecker.
Yes.
Bigwood.
Yes.
Wojciechowski.
Yes.
Broussard.
Yes.
Carlsard.
Yes.
Dardis.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Idso.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Back committee now. Susan Thompson is stepping in. Thanks, Al. One more thing, Al?
Yes. Mr. Chair, I do have just a couple quick ones.
Oh, okay.
One is, we also, and Susan will talk about that, the committee did also approve Task Order 9610, is biennium outreach, and we also did approve the executive director position description. We're passing that basically on to FAC for the detailed presentation, but be aware, it did go through the Technical Advisory Committee. We did also approve those. And lastly, importantly, especially to me, we've been without a vice chair for a long time here, several years. And Mr. Grubb volunteered to throw his hat into the ring, and we did have a unanimous vote to elect him as the vice chair. So I'm glad to report on that. That's
Very
the end
good.
of my report.
Good morning, committee. I'm Susan Thompson. I'm the finance director for the city of Fargo, and I'm the co-chair for FAC. Maureen is in a nice warm place today, so here I am. We have 4 action items for you today, and then we want to start with just an update. This was a discussion topic at our committee, and we wanted to just make sure that you were all aware of this. If we need further discussion, we can bring it forward at a later date. As Mary discussed the budget, we want you to know that as our committee is looking at some of the implications of these items that we're going to be talking about further, particularly the hiring of the executive director, as we looked through that, what we did is adjusted on the right side about 5 up. We had original budget had administrative support at $200,000. We believe that that is still a reasonable number, including the executive director. So, it is our goal that we continue to stay within budget. We're just going to reallocate these funds for the rest of this year. So obviously we'll continue to watch the budget, but that is our intent. The second item we wanted to bring up, can you flip back to the prior one for a second? We talked about this at a previous meeting. We just want to make sure that everyone is aware of this. So in the revenue section, the top left, we have the second line called participant transfers. So basically that is what the budget is short, the revenues versus the expenses. And so historically that has been absorbed. It's been a smaller number, and it's been absorbed solely by Fargo and Grand Forks. So as we talked about the budget this year, we discussed that all of the participants assist with that on a proportional basis. So that's the $250,000. The line beneath that is an assumed state cost share of some of these administrative costs. That has not been finalized. We're still going to be working with the state. If they do not participate, though, we want to make sure that everyone is aware that that will then, of course, increase everyone's expenses. So, Brenda, if you'd flip to the next slide. This is the proportionate share based on nominations. The third column is allocating the $250,000. The fourth column is if we allocate that full amount, which is $509,000. So it's slightly more than double. So that is not an action item. We're just bringing this forward for informational purposes. Does anybody have questions on that?
Any questions?
Yeah, one, I mean, I think this is for the board to consider. We have MOC, we have people that have signed up, at least from a memorandum of commitment, that they want to be a part of the project. The question here, does that make sense then? If they've got a certain amount there, should they be paying that into LAWA, or should that continue to get absorbed by Grand Forks and Fargo? I guess I'm really fine either way. I would prefer that now if we have people that are in the project, they're also going to pay for LAWA. I think that does make sense. If they're on the level of memorandum of commitment, they're potentially going to be members of the project in the long run. It is a small dollar figure. It's broken down based on the size of your nominations, but that's really the question that is at hand here is, do we want to continue that route? I think the easy answer, just make Grand Forks and Fargo keep paying for it, but I think it does make a lot of sense that we share these expenses. If we are all in on this project together, we're making decisions together, it probably should be shared at this point. It hasn't been in the past. So that's what I guess I put out to the group here. You can kind of see where the costs are. This is the first time I've seen this, but you can take a look at that and I guess give your thoughts.
Tom?
Yeah, I guess some of the concerns, and I know some of the smaller users, as I was at the League of Cities meeting in Dickinson, we had some conversation about, well, basically where's the 250,000 and then where's the 259? And that would have to be either Fargo Grand Forks pay the full amount, which they've offered to do so, but then again, those of us that are small users probably need to participate in this as well, or could be expected to participate in this. So I guess when we talk about the revenue, I was curious about the dues, but the dues are basically only $35,000. If you look at the budget, there's another $509,000. So I believe that what's on the board here now, but, you know, like take Carrington as an example, it's fairly small. The 250 would cost us $625. If we have to pay our share for the 509,000, it's $1,275. But like as an example, I visited with Tim out in Dickinson for Lisbon. I mean, you're looking at $1,850 for the 250 and potentially no cost share on the 259. You're looking at a $3,774 expense for 2026. And I know as, you know, the outreach individuals went around, Sean Gotti and Steve Berrien, Dwayne DeCray, Kip and Mary, I think we all realize there's some administrative costs here, and I believe we were all kind of led to believe that that was probably going to be down the road 5 or 6 years from 2026 and not starting in 2026. So I guess, you know, there might be a number of small users that might have signed an MOC, but are they really totally committed? And I believe they need to be aware of their potential costs that are going to take place here. And I, you know, I don't feel that Fargo and Grand Forks, since they represent 75% of the project, that they should be totally obligated to pay this. And I know Bernie expressed this when we were in the FAC committee meeting. He felt somewhat the same way, but then of course, if Fargo Grand Forks pay for that, then West Fargo is going to end up having to probably make up some of that difference. But so I guess I think there's just a number of smaller users that are, you know, that maybe don't understand what this potential liability is, and it's starting in 2026. Fargo and Grand Forks paid, you know, for all of us for this, the dollars that were put in there basically to cover AE2S and Brent's salary basically, or contract. That was all paid last year to the tune of 140 or 180. And that's greatly appreciated, but I guess there becomes a point in time where if we're going to be asked to pay this, I know Tim might have to go back to his city council and say, okay, we're in, and now we got to start writing checks.
Mr. Chairman.
I would just add, I know that this was discussion at FAC the last couple of meetings regarding this adjustment, and does it go into play in 2026? Do we look at what the membership dues are that help to, you know, in adjusting dues, those types of things for going into 2027, and incorporating some of these costs there. So I just wanted to add that as part of the conversation that's been discussed at FAC, and being, you know, so that those that are participating, their membership dues actually, maybe we need to adjust the membership dues versus it being a supplemental item. So that may be something, you know, that the Financial Advisory Committee will tackle. And I know part of that discussion was with us going down the path of an executive director for LAWA, that we would, that would be something for the executive director to tackle right away, and engaging with this user outreach, which we just approved that user outreach task order.
Mayor Carlswood.
Yeah, I just want to say, so the first job for the executive director is going to go collect money. He's going to be popular, he or she.
Thanks for the laugh. That's good. My question on the numbers, are these numbers as of today, or will they be increasing as the day goes on, so to speak?
Those numbers tie to our budget, so as we mentioned, we're going to try as hard as we can to stick to the budget, but, you know, there's always the opportunity that things may change, but you'll be kept abreast of that, you know, through the monthly meetings, so when you keep looking at the actual to budget.
Thank you.
It shouldn't be a surprise, I guess is my point.
I guess if I could clarify this some more, basically what's happened up until probably 2025 is that Garrison Diversion actually took and covered all these costs. And so every bit of it, there was no charge to LAWA because Garrison Diversion was paying the bill. And, you know, we've talked about, of course, bringing in Fargo and Grand Forks' attorney and consultants and working with Garrison Diversion, and all of that is part of this $259,000. That's the legal part of what we voted on as a board to allow the consultants and the attorneys from Fargo, Grand Forks to participate with Garrison Diversion's attorney. And then, of course, the $250 basically is the cost of an executive director or the administrative costs involved with that. And of course, at this point, for last year and up until now, Brent Bogar is doing that on behalf with a contract that we have with A2S, just so everybody understands how this is working. And I said earlier, I felt it was premature that we start doing all these things because, meaning Garrison Diversion was taking care of pretty much all the administrative costs for LAWA and keeping us informed. And now I still believe we're probably 5 or 6 years too early in this process, but that 5 or 6 years is costing us $500,000 a year. It'd be about $3 million in that 6-year period of what my personal thought is, but I guess I'm going to tell you what my personal thought was. So that's kind of the position and I voted for allowing these things and just like to move this thing forward, but also realizing that there's a cost, and I believe all the users need to understand that, okay, as a LAWA board, we're making these decisions, and if they're going to be participating, they need to probably get their checkbook ready.
And Tom, you make a good point, but one of the things you have to understand now with federal money coming in, it's become increasingly clear that this project's going to move faster than 6 years. So one of the things that's happening is that the intake and the different things that we have to get done now, it's more critical that you have somebody moving on that right now, because it could be potential that Hovind can get us $450 million by 30. So by 30. So can you increase the speed at which the project is done? And when I've had discussions with Kip and Dwayne, there's power issues that we have. There's a variety of issues that we have that have to be addressed. So you almost need somebody now getting aware of where we're going to be and what we're going to do. But in talking to federal partners, I mean, Hovind said 50, and then it said, I'll bring another 100 million pretty soon. Well, that pretty soon was supposed to be in October, and he already brought it in here now in March. So I don't know what magic checkbook he has, but if he continues to bring the money, we have to do that. And when people talk about the intake part, and Al was talking about that, I think the price tag on that whole process is about $250 million. Well, you could do that in one task order, and we get reductions of cost of the project in a sense. So it is going to be, we very critically have to start looking forward to where we're going to go and how we're going to go. And my concern is that with the federal money, it's going to accelerate the speed of this project. So we do need somebody starting to figure stuff out. It just seems like Brandon and I, it takes forever for the legal guys to figure stuff. It's not like 2 months. It just takes exceedingly long for a lot of that stuff to have happen. But if we're not really on it, I mean, Pepcorn's here, and we're both surprised the diversion's done. I mean, it'll be done this October. And that, I mean, it's unbelievable to believe it's done, but it's getting done. And this could be this project too. I think the same thing's going to happen. Is it's going to start moving, because we're getting to halfway point on this project, and it'll start to move. And yeah, now we got to get our checkbooks out. Go ahead, Shin.
Yeah, just to add one thing. First of all, the attorneys that we've hired for anything that Grand Forks or Fargo's hired for attorneys, we've paid for that separately. None of that's come forward to LAWA. And if you look at the last year, what we've paid just to AE2S for Brent services is more than what an executive director is going to cost. So if 2025 is an example, our full-time director's taken on a lot of his tasks. And that, I mean, I think the task order ended up being close to $300,000 for, we're going to be at 140, 150. I mean, it's Fargo, so everyone gets paid more, I guess, here. But that position's going to be, probably half the cost. So if 2025 is the example going forward, we probably have a chance to lower those costs. And the cost share stuff, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of that's the attorney going out and closing these deals, these MOCs, getting them to be water distribution users. That's really in this task order. So as far as is there going to be a state cost share, I guess I'm seeing that as part of this task order, so I think the answer to that is yes, at least to some level. So I think that second number is probably, even as of today, going to be less. But there is 2025 at a lot of additional costs, and I think going forward with that director, Brent's done just a fine job, but it's not his full-time job. We're going to have someone that's cheaper, and it's their full-time job. So, I mean, I like the sounds of that, put it that way. No offense, Brent, we love you too.
So I guess, just in summary, basically, like the 509,000 for 2026, what do we envision that number to be in 2027 or 28, I guess would be. So of the 259, how much of that are we saying is like outreach and getting entities to sign? So I guess, I think I look at that and say, well, that's an annual number, but maybe it is not an annual number.
No, and I don't, maybe Susan can touch on that, but I think that's largely,
Flip back to the other one.
maybe they got a thing up there, but I think that's,
So that number includes the accounting, which we'll talk about in a minute, engineering, the legal fees, and the executive director. So it's kind of all of the administrative fees that are associated with LAWA. I think as the project gets further out and we've, had all the meetings, that should be reduced as we go. Brent has a comment.
Brent?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the 26 budget, and if I were to look at that going to 27, if you have an executive director, that AE2S line is no longer there. That's $100,000 savings going forward. Once the agreements are in place, the amount of time Onstead Twitchell is putting in probably goes down. So I don't think I think you actually see declining expenses in the future as the project gets more mature and those agreements are finalized. There's less of this upfront activity and engagement with all the users. Then it's the executive director's role to just keep the users informed, and that's just part of his regular job duties versus them being new task orders.
Bernie Dartis?
Question for Susan. In your cost share for the state, you have $259,940. Is that a firm commitment that we have for the state that that cost share is going to be there for us?
No, actually, that's the intent of that second slide, to show you that.
That's the one thing I wanted to clarify, is that, the actions that we're considering here is actually $260,000 additional, potentially. And, Mary Meridian just told us a little bit ago that she sent out the invoices for the dues. My concern is that knowing some of the smaller users and auditors, city auditors and the like, should that not, these expenses and with the allocations and the dollar amounts, should that not have been as a part of the invoice for the dues? We're already started working on our 2027 budget. These dollars this expense is coming in, and our 2026 budgets are already in process and been approved. So,
Yep. In talking to Reese and then in talking to Schwantek, the idea, as we split it into LAWA does certain work and the Garrison does certain work, cost share has been part of that discussion. So that will continue to go forward, but that'll be a task order that we talk over with the state.
We actually are going to get some meetings scheduled shortly to discuss this issue, so we'll bring it back with what the resolution is. And then I think actually it would be appropriate to take some formal action as far as Fargo Grand Forks or everyone, I think, to make that clear. But that's not what we're asking for today. Today's just a discussion.
Dave Carlsrud?
So this discussion that's going to take place with the cost share, do we know at this point if the $400 and some million comes to fruition, what the cost share would be, what LAWA would realize, and how much the state will
The state would realize almost 300 million decreased costs, and the locals would decrease by about 108 million. So we get 25% of the 450 in a sense, but it's bizarre because they put in 450 and then we put in additional 25%. So it gets a little convoluted, but we are doing an analysis of that, and we will get that out there.
Thank you.
Bernie Dart.
Susan, one quick question for you, or maybe two. with the, what Mr. Erdman said, are we, or is the FACT committee, or maybe I can make a recommendation to have the FACT committee look at doing a 5 or 10-year forecast for budgeting purposes, just to help prepare us to get to that 2030, 2035 timeframe? I think that would be helpful for the board to at least understand what's it going to look like, what's going to maybe decrease, what's going to increase. We know there's going to be inflationary numbers. I think that would be a good recommendation to have brought back to the full board as well, too.
We can work on that.
You're thinking like a 5-year projection, and
Five-year
just to
projection,
Tom's
yep.
comment, it's 32, it's supposed to be done.
Yep.
What are our expectations as we go forward?
Just looking at those operating costs that we're going to see.
Okay, thank you. We'll work on that.
Right, I agree that that would be a good idea, because I'm sitting here thinking, well, it's 500,000, and then you have your normal increases in a budget, 3 to 5%, so next year it's 550,000, 600, I mean, it just continues on. But I guess the onset Twitchell question I have, the 187,000, is that part of what John Shockley's doing with the split agreement or the water agreement? Is that part of that cost there? So once that agreement would be reached and agreed to, then that would no longer be a work item.
Yeah, Mayor Erdman, this is Katie. Yes, it would be included in that. We're actively working on those agreements now, so those costs would be done once we were finished with the agreement drafting.
Okay, thank you.
And mystery voice was Katie.
Right, I figured it out.
Mr. Chair, yeah, now that I know Katie's here, I got one other question. Katie, if you look at tab L, we're going to go to that here shortly. That's task order 9710. So task description under 4, we have meeting with individual MOC signatories in support of the water distribution contract. I guess I was expecting that, since that's the agreement Onstead Twitchell is working on, a lot of that expense is going to be Onstead Twitchell going out, working through that contract, and getting it signed. Is there some overlap between the 187 that we're seeing in the draft budget? Because obviously that 377 clearly is going to get a cost share. It's being approved as part of a task order that gets the cost share. Am I understanding that correctly? Is there some overlap with the 187, or are they to be viewed kind of separately?
I think since this is the engineering portion of it, it would be viewed as something separate. Our cost would be our cost and their cost would be their cost, but both including going to the MOC users.
Okay, I guess just to be more clear, is part of that expense going to be Onstead Twitchell's work there, or is this 377 just an engineer standing there talking to them and the smaller users? I guess I had expected this was some legal work as well.
I believe that's just the engineering costs.
Okay, I guess that's not how I understood it coming out of the Finance Committee, so I would have some further questions when we get to that point.
Dardis?
I would like to call on Brent Bogar or Mayor Erdman. Last week, the DWR met and with legislators and the like, and it was an interesting conversation. I know that Mayor Erdman has monitored it, and I'm sure that Brent was probably in the room. Could you give us a feel as to how we're perceived with our relationship and going forward with Garrison Diversion and LAWA Board? Which all relates back to, are we going to get the $259,000 or additional state funding?
Yeah, and
Because to me, it wasn't very positive.
I'm assuming you're talking about like water topics yesterday, and that is later on in the agenda. I can cover that now or cover that
Okay,
later.
All right, later's fine, but
Okay.
I think it's an important thing for the board to pay attention to.
Susan, is this an action item?
This is not an action item, and thanks everyone for a very
information.
good discussion.
Any other questions, Susan, on this particular? Executive Director, job description.
Actually, we have one before that, the statement of work, the agreed
Statement
upon
of work, sorry.
procedures with Ide Bailey. This is a contract with Ide Bailey to do agreed upon procedures, which is basically a review of transactions and internal controls. It's really a best practice for this type of situation. This agreement covers 2024 and 25. They'll provide a written report, and it has a fee of $7,875 plus expenses, and that is a budgeted item in 2026. So this is an action item. FAC recommends that it be approved.
Do I have a motion?
Broussard, so moved.
Do I have a
Charles would second.
second? We're getting fast now, first and second. Any questions? Roll call vote.
Yes. Bigwood.
Yes.
Wojciechowski. Yes. Broussard.
Yes.
Karlsruhe. Dardis.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Idso.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. Go ahead, Susan.
Actually, Bruce Grubb will be handling the next item.
Thank you, Susan, Mr. Chair, and board members. You probably recall, first turn to tab J in your book. Very important. That is the draft job description that I promised a month ago that we would bring to you at this month's board meeting. And so you probably recall, but at the last LAWA board meeting, Maureen Storstad went through a staffing plan and a timeline. The first thing on the agenda was the hiring of an executive director, which LAWA having staffing at some point is going to be extremely important because LAWA is leading the water delivery agreement negotiations with users. So I mentioned that we would bring this draft back to you. It did go to both TAC and FAC last Thursday and Friday, and we're forwarded on to the board with a recommendation for approval. In putting this together, can't take all the credit for it, but I did get some examples, suggestions from both Brent Bogar and John Chalkley, and then I also used the City of Fargo job description for city administrator, and I followed that city administrator format for the job description since this is being proposed to be a paid contract position by the City of Fargo. So I thought a high-level walkthrough of this job description might be helpful, and I see Brent's got the whole thing up on the big board, so I'll do that quickly under job summary. This first section essentially says that the executive director is appointed by the LAWA board and is the chief executive of LAWA. The position is accountable to the LAWA board as well as the technical advisory committee and the financial advisory committee. There are a number of duties listed there ranging from leadership and internal external relations to LAWA operations and finances. So you can read it in detail on your own. Moving on to essential duties and responsibilities, there's a lot here. And I won't read through all of these, but the major areas of responsibility include leadership and governance of the LAWA organization, partner coordination and regional collaboration, member relations and engagement of stakeholders, financial management and administration, and finally, planning, compliance, and public representation. So it's a pretty thorough and inclusive list of duties and responsibilities. Moving on to minimum qualifications, the position would require a bachelor's degree in a related field with an advanced degree preferred. We oftentimes do that. We certainly would like the candidate to have some experience in dealing with boards like LAWA and have good leadership qualities, good communication skills, good consensus building skills, and knowledge of water projects like this. The reporting relationship for the position, the executive director reports directly to you, the LAWA board. From a compensation standpoint, I just talked about this a second ago, but I took the City of Fargo pay plan and I looked at similar level of duties and responsibilities in terms of pay to see how this job description matched up on the City of Fargo's pay plan. And it landed at the equivalent of a director's position in the City of Fargo. So that's the salary range that I've listed here. And then the last section you might find a little odd, but this is a common section in all of the City of Fargo job descriptions. It lists physical demands and working conditions. It's a section that is included on all City of Fargo applications because it does help determine where a job description lands on the pay plan. So that's why that's there. And then we added an attachment to the draft description, listing out what we saw as the first 12 to 24-month priorities. Again, not going to read through all of these, but the areas of focus include alignment of the board and the organization, relations with and between members and regional partners, project coordination and strategy development, financial oversight and funding strategy, external relations and advocacy on behalf of LAWA, and long-range vision and organizational strategies. So that is the draft job description and attachment listing 12 to 24-month expectations. And then Brent, if you could go to that extra slide, also tried to lay out a tentative timeline for advertising, searching, and selecting a preferred candidate. The idea here was to try and get the executive director hopefully hired and on board by June. And so if you look here, it may look a little funny, but the middle column are dates that TAC and FAC saw last week. I realized an error quickly there that if we get approval to advertise today, there's no way we're going to be advertised by Monday. So that's what the third column is, and I recognized we have an error for application reviews because I show the apps being open until April 24th, so I had to bump that to the following week. The rest of the proposed schedules that you see there, interviews, LAWA board appointments, City of Fargo contract approval, and tentative start date, that's what we've got on the wall shooting for today. And so you can see that we've got a suggested motion for the board in green at the bottom of this slide to approve the job description for the position of executive director and work with the City of Fargo HR department for the posting of the position, along with developing necessary supporting contracts.
Any questions of Bruce? Tom? No? Bernie?
Question would be, where is this person expected to office out of?
We have a location here in the City of Fargo available if that's the choice of where we think it's best housed. Thank you
One
for that.
one office upstairs, right across from Bruce's office.
Yeah.
Or how it was that it was
One
placed.
one other thing that I would like the board to discuss is the formation of a selection committee. I mean, once we get applications, selection committee's got to review those, you got to line up interviews, you've got to interview them and make a recommendation to the board. We haven't done anything with the selection committee yet. Is that something that the chair could just put that together and we proceed? Because as you can see, this is a pretty aggressive schedule.
Yeah, I think so. You got a question?
Bruce, do we have any type of benefits that are going to be part of this? Of course, the budget's $250,000 for the executive director. Who, if we do have those benefits, who's supporting LAWA with those benefits, such as health insurance, retirement, things like that?
We do have the standard City of Fargo benefits package as part of this, this job. And so I believe this is reflective of that.
Thank you.
With the diversion authority, we followed the county's program as when we originally started that, and then as we went on, we discovered that that worked pretty well, because you always get any questions about COLA or health benefits or something like that. We thought on this, subcontract would be with the City of Fargo, pay City of Fargo benefits. Do I have a motion?
Broussard, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second, Schmidt.
Any further discussion? Tom?
So a question I have, and that, I know Brent's going to talk about this some more, but I sat in on the session online yesterday with the Department of Water Resources and also what they had contracted with Deloitte to do a study on a governance study. And so I mean, all I'm saying is what some of the stuff that came out of that, I don't know if what we're doing here is conducive to that, or if we're doing something that would be adverse to that activity that might be coming down the road from the study that was presented to the Department of Water Resources yesterday. I know the Garrison staff was there, and I guess, well, Brent was there, I seen him on the video, but all I'm saying is that there's things going on with the Department of Water Resources and the State Water Commission that have an impact on us, or are we doing the right thing here is basically what I'm asking.
I think in
the
talking
question.
to Reese, this is following what he would support, but I'll let Brent comment to that.
Yeah, and I won't steal all of the thunder from later giving an update on the report, but I think when you look at what was presented from Deloitte and the conversations with DWR that have continued and with Garrison Diversion, is LAWA is always going to be a player, and I think an executive director for LAWA will be a fit into any option that was presented.
Any other questions?
Got one question on the, we go through this timeline. Are we gonna have the users, with the allotted, like Lisbon's $1,800 committed before we do the hire? Or are we going to hire and then go out to that list of users? Because right now there's like 8 that are committed on that list. Because that's gonna change everybody's, what's everybody's feel on that, or?
Yeah, and I think this gets to what Vice Chair Bochensky talked about, where Fargo and Grand Forks early in the process had committed to covering this for this year. And so that's, there'll be ongoing discussions of whether or not the other users do participate in the 26 contribution, but there's been that kind of commitment already. I don't know if that helps answer, but.
Your Council?
So, like you, I'm a short timer, and I don't have AFib, but, it gets my attention a little bit about the ongoing time that we need to commit, fish or cut bait, and at some time, I'm going to need some information from somebody representing LAWA to visit with our staff and our elected commission at that time. So at this point, I'm going to support, but it has my attention.
Well, I think Mayor Dardis made that point, is a lot of times our budget 26 is done. We have a commitment in my budget, just like Brzezinski, that will cover this cost if it isn't covered. But it prepares for 27, is that when we go into next year's budget, I think every community should know what the expectation is or what the request might be, so Tom can make that. But that's, just like you said, our new executive director is going to go out and explain this to every community and kind of go through it. If somebody wants to commit or has enough money to commit this year, that's fine. That would be very helpful. But I think we want to get this off the ground and get going on it, because it's just time to get it done. And Tom, to your question, we also expect that person to work with Garrison, and what Garrison can cover, Garrison will cover, and what we can cover, we'll cover. So we're going to look for efficiency and cost sharing in all of this. So I don't view this as anything different, but when I look at the work Jason Benson does in the diversion and all the money he saved us, it really works better to have somebody on the ground working on this. And many board members I've talked to, our communication has to improve. We just don't have a lot of communication that gets out there, and I think everybody needs that, Dave, is what do I get for my buck? Why can you talk your council or commission into it? And I think everybody needs a little bit of convincing. We've got to sell the product, so I think we have to get out there.
I think in answer to Tim's question, that this individual, if hired, would be on the ground going, basically to the smaller users or all the ones that sign an MOC and have conversations with them. So if this individual's hired and starts, before in July, that individual would be, as part of their first 12 to 24 months, the priority is the member relations of all the entities that have signed up.
Yeah. First place we're going to go is to your place.
We're fine, we're signed up, and I think I understand it, so. You might have to go south of the Cheyenne River and educate or visit with some of those individuals, but you can come to Carrington, you're always welcome.
It's a nice place.
I know it is.
What,
It's got a nice golf
Oh,
course,
you have to
too.
say that, of course it is.
Brett, what happens if some of the small users do not pay their fees?
Well, just if you go back to the chart that, it's proportional. So like if we wind up with only 8 people participating instead of 30 that have signed MOCs, everyone's going to play that proportional share. And so that will adjust with that. Obviously, again, I think Fargo's will absorb 68% of that cost.
Okay.
Just in our situation, I need to make sure that good information is given to my commission on my way out the door. So we make sure that I'm not giving false information or bad information when I make my votes. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, my concern was that if Grand Forks and Fargo have stepped up right now to pay if the small users don't, that's going to increase if some of these small users drop out, that's going to increase everybody's share again. So if they keep dropping out, will Grand Forks and Fargo keep picking them up?
Roll call vote, please.
Brecker.
Yes.
Bigwood.
Yes.
Wojciechowski.
Yes.
Yes.
Broussard. Carlsrud.
Yes.
Dardis.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Idso.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Number 3, AETUS Extension Service for Approval Amendment, tab K. Susan?
Hello, yes. This was alluded to earlier. This is a request for an extension of the AE2S contract that is providing Brent services. The current renewal expires the end of this month, so what we're requesting is a 3-month extension, which basically covers the time that it will take to hire an executive director. The terms are $40,000 for those 3 months with a not-to-exceed number. The current extension does have some budget left that would be rolled forward. What we're trying to do with this contract and the previous extension as well is be more efficient regarding reduced time for meetings. We're using virtual meetings, and really the intent of this extension is to support the efforts for the executive director hire and then the transition.
Do you have a motion?
Brecker, motion, yes.
Is there a second? No, okay, I missed it. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Brecker.
Yes.
Bigwood.
Yes.
Wojciechowski.
Yes.
Broussard.
Yes.
Carlsrud. He stepped out. Dardis.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Idso.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Susan?
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. The next and the last item for this will be addressed by Todd, Bruce, and Brent. Thank you.
Didn't bring my agenda up here. I think it's the user outreach and financial modeling task order. And once the split or shared delivery method was adopted by LAWA, LAWA became responsible for entering 2 things: a water supply agreement with Garrison and a water delivery agreement with the users. And so the water delivery agreement needs to be negotiated with all of the users that will be part of the project. So will require, as Tom Erdman just mentioned, additional user outreach. And then we need additional financial modeling, because I think the estimates that all of the users have seen are probably 3 years older or older. So we need current estimates. And then the impacts of this federal funding, that's the good news to all of us, is that helps lower our cost to this project. So when Senator Hoeven announces $150 million, that's a big deal. And we've been looking at those models.
seeing how it impacts each user, and we're anxious to start sharing that. So that's what this task order will help LAWA do, is start that user outreach in the efforts of trying to get a water delivery agreement approved and signed by all the users that'll be part of this project.
Todd, are you adding to this, or?
Could I make a comment? I guess at the FAC meeting, this original task order was over $2 million, and I know with DWR, Garrison Diversion, and LAWA, this has been renegotiated down to this level of 1.1 million, correct?
Chair Mahoney and members of the LAWA board, yeah. When we first started this, this task order, it was a little over $2.5 million. And so the last time the FAC committee saw it was at in and around 1.3 million. And after North Dakota Department of Water Resources reviewed it and approved moving forward, we're down to this $1.182 million. So it has been negotiated down. And the other thing we've done with this is, number one, we got to remember this is a LAWA led task order. This task order will be an attachment to the, as Bruce noted, the water delivery agreement, or the agreement with LAWA and its users. So this is really important to continue this work. Similar to what Mr. Grasser talked about with the operations. You know, the operations task order ultimately will be an attachment to this same delivery agreement. So these two task orders that we've approved today are going to be really important attachments to the water delivery agreement that we're working on. I think the one thing we try to do in this task order to reduce the cost is we try to combine meetings, and so that we're not, instead of having, I'll just make up some numbers, instead of having 100 meetings, we're trying to have 10 meetings here. Because we well know as the more meetings we have, the more cost there is. So we're trying to, in Al's word, to manage these task orders better. I think the other thing the TAC committee and also the FAC are going to do is that we're asking you to approve these task orders. However, the various actions within these task orders, we're asking either FAC or TAC or both to authorize them for us to move forward with the specific actions that are described in these task orders. And ultimately, this board here will approve us moving forward. So when Al talked about managing these task orders, that's what we mean by us managing. Then ultimately, this board will approve us moving forward with the various individual actions of these task orders. And then last thing, Mayor Mahoney, is there's been discussions about these outreach meetings are going to be less about, you know, it's going to be less about what should I nominate for, and it'll be more about the agreements that we're working on. And probably more about the financial. And we're working really hard on getting draft agreements, these water delivery agreements, so that when we go out to these user outreach meetings, that we have draft agreements that people can review. And so that's what Fargo and Grand Forks are working hard on. And I think the specific question we have with the Department of Water Resources, when we go out and do this outreach, can we incorporate those hours that are going to be spent with our legal firms as part of this task order, and that's what we're working on. So when you see that $259,000 on the revenue side, state cost share, that's what we're going to be asking for, is when we do these outreach meetings, can we have some of our legal fees covered?
Jasinski?
Yeah, and I wanted to add to that. We've had meetings already with Reese and with his team, and that's the indication we got, that would be available for that. So I think we need to look at possibly amending this going forward so that Onstead Twitchell can figure out what that portion is, because I think this is a great mechanism to ensure we got the cost share. We've got a meeting with them at 4 o'clock today. I'll confirm that there, and we can start the process as early as this afternoon, because I think that's a great mechanism. That's exactly what they're going to be doing, and at least verbally, we've already had the indication that would be eligible for cost share. So I'll get that confirmed this afternoon and save us all some money.
With the contract or the task order that you got in front of us here, is that financing coming through our operating budget with LAWA, or is the state funding that? How are we going to pay for this?
Currently, right now, I think Mayor Mahoney and is that this would be a cost share task order. So this is a 75% state cost share, 25. Department of Water Resources preliminarily have signed off that this would be eligible for cost share, subject to their final approval.
And from a budgeting standpoint, this is what Series F that was approved. Those participating in Series F pay that 25% local cost share. So this isn't part of the actual LAWA budget, it's part of that Series F financing to provide the local cost share.
Thank you.
So this is a covered cost, but Tom's worked on bringing it down from 2 million down to 1.1. Okay. Well,
I would thank the guys the individuals that were involved with DWR, because I know we looked at this task order several times, and it was over $2.5 million, and now we've come back with an agreed-to amount. We might have not gotten anything of the $2.5 million, but hopefully we get the 75% on a cost share of this 1.1. So I guess I appreciate all the work that's been done here to get this, down to a task order that is eligible for cost share.
So did you want to make a motion, Tom?
I'll make the motion to approve the task order.
Is there a second?
I'll second Bochenski. Me and Tom will get on the same one here. Perfect.
Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Brecker.
Yes.
Bigwood.
Yes.
Wojciechowski.
Yes.
Broussard.
Yes.
Carlsrud.
Yes.
Dardis.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Idso.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Nielsen. Yes. Schmaltz.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yep, Gobar. We have update on construction. Not a lot, right? Are they in the field now?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board. Yeah, things are starting to get busy out there. Contractors are ready to go. In fact, 2 contractors have been calling this week. They want to start putting in pipe next week, starting on Monday, but we have to see where that frost is at, so we'll hopefully that it stays warm and the frost comes out and we can allow them to start putting in pipe. That would be the earliest that we've ever put pipe in the ground, so stay tuned on that. But they've been doing a lot of aggregate deliveries lately and pipe deliveries, and so they're just prepping everything and getting ready. On your screen, you got an updated map. Anything in yellow is an active contract. It's underway. Anything in green is completed. And then just take you over to the boxes on the right. 59 miles of pipe are under contract or completed. 30 miles are in the ground, and we have 45 miles of shovel-ready design pipeline. Then looking at 26, go to the next. I think I have one more, maybe. Oh, I don't. Okay. I have it in front of me here, so I can just give you a quick update. Looking for out this year, 5C, that was an 8-mile contract. We're expected to complete that in the fall. 5D, that 10-mile contract, all the pipe is in the ground, but they still have to do restoration, and so we expect them to be complete this summer. 6A, that was a 7-mile contract that started last year. They might get all their pipe in the ground this year, depending on how the weather holds out, but for sure they'll be wrapping that up in 27 with restoration. 6B and C, that was bid together, so 6B and C are together. That's 17 miles long. That is the one we just bid, and so I think pipe delivery is scheduled for May on that one. 7A, that's 6.5 miles long, and that was another one that you just bid, so they're just getting ready. I don't believe they're going to see pipe for that until end of June or early July. And as Al said earlier, our target is 14 miles of pipe to be put in the ground this year. Oh, and I forgot one more thing that we would want to bid this year, and I know, Mr. Chairman, you're going to like this. We want to start on the intake this year. We want to speed up construction, but intake, contract 1 on the intake would be to build a road into the McCluskey Canal and improve some roads there, and then do some site leveling work. And so we would hope to bid that in July, and obviously that'll have to come through the Garrison Diversion Red River Committee, Garrison Diversion Board, like Agassiz, TAC, FAC, the whole thing. But you'll start seeing that, and that would be exciting to start the intake work. And then we're We're starting to meet with Western Area Power and Central Power. We're starting to meet with those guys about every other week, applying a lot of pressure and saying that 4 or 5 years for a transformer is just not acceptable. But we'll see where we go with that. That is my update for 2026. Any questions?
Any questions of Kip? Keep putting pressure on that electric company.
We will.
I need a plug to plug in, hey? McCluskey Canal update. Paul, are you online? Paul Borsbo? Kip, you want to do this, or Mary, do you know what he wanted to tell us? I assume Kip's been part of the discussion on McCluskey.
I apologize. I thought Paul was going to be online covering this, so just bear with me a little bit. Yes, I'm involved in the McCluskey Canal update. What we're doing on the McCluskey Canal is there's a few improvements we have to make on the canal. We have a few structures in the canal that wouldn't allow enough flow. So there's an earthen dike in there that's got a few culverts in it. There's some radial gate structures in there that we're modeling to see if we can get the 165 CFS down the canal, plus irrigation flows. So we're doing modeling studies just to make sure and recommend what changes we have to do to the canal. And then as far as the other one is water quality. So the canal is about 59 miles long, and the first 36 miles are really fresh because there's an outlet. We call it the Painted Woods Outlet. So that outlet goes back to the Missouri River. So those first 36 miles are really fresh when it comes to water quality. From mile marker 36, all the way up to 59, where our intake is, we consider that kind of a dead end, and so you have a lot of evaporation going on, and the water goes nowhere. So you kind of have an ocean effect or a Devil's Lake effect. And so the engineering team is trying to figure out ways that we can freshen those last 20 miles. For instance, we could maybe block off the first portion, and we could pump backwards, pump upstream, and get it through Painted Woods Creek. And if that's something we could do, maybe starting early spring, and then we could do that all the way up till irrigation season or recreation season, and then allow the canal to fill back up, do some water quality test to see how that strategy would help freshen the water. We really don't want to push that really salty water into the Biota water treatment plant. It just makes things cost more for treating. Covered a lot there on the McCluskey Canal. Any questions with what we're working on that one?
I think we're good.
Okay. What's next? Are you covering this one? So Kurt will cover the next one.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. Just wanted to briefly cover kind of what we've been doing relative to pilot testing out at the McCluskey Canal. We ended up doing pilot testing last summer and fall at 2 sites. One was at the head gates of the canal right at Lake Audubon, and then the other one was at the McCluskey site right near Highway 200. Essentially, the results of that, essentially much better water quality at the head gates than what we had at the end of the canal towards Highway 200, largely because that water just sits there, and there's a high total organic carbon content and also high algae content in that water. So what we found was it's extremely, it's quite a bit harder to treat, takes more chemicals, and we end up with more residuals at that site. So I think our challenge as a design team is to figure out and dial in on what design water quality we're going to use. We have not made a final decision. I think that's something that we're discussing with staff and also considering, the canal freshening plan that Kip referred to earlier. So what does that translate into? The water quality aspects, again, it's higher coagulant dosages, higher expenses from an operational standpoint, and then also increased residuals. So the other thing that will have an impact on is water quality specifically is the chlorine and the disinfection at the water treatment plant to achieve inactivation of the various organisms that we're trying to control. We end up also, if we have a high or degraded water quality, we end up creating disinfection byproducts, which is a negative. So we're taking a close look at that. Our goal right now is we're wrapping up a piloting report, and that report will come out, probably draft report within the next month. So plans for 2026, as mentioned, we are in the process of finalizing the piloting report. We're going to take that results of that piloting and incorporate that into the preliminary design. We had started that and got that to a draft stage last year and kind of paused it until we got the results back and information from the pilot testing. So we're going to incorporate that into the preliminary design and then finish up the preliminary design by getting a good cost estimate put together for the treatment plant. And then kind of in concert with wrapping up the preliminary design, an emphasis on getting the final design contract put together for the overall biota water plant and pumping stations, getting that put together, get that scope of services and fee estimate in front of you folks for approval. As Kip mentioned, we do anticipate kicking off a design contract at the site yet this year. We want to get started in July, make use of the 2026 construction season. So we estimate that project to be around $20 million, and it'll largely involve road improvements and mass grading at the site. And then also we do anticipate excavating the shaft for the pumping station that will take water from the canal. So that'll be kind of step number one. We'll move into step two, where we put in a shaft liner and a tunnel and the intake in the canal, and that'll follow up in 27 is what the plan is right now.
So when you notice the contamination in the water, does that increase our O&M costs on what we projected, or does that remain at the same price?
I would anticipate that the O&M cost might increase slightly because of the decreased water quality. Not exactly sure what that impact is right now, Mr. Mahoney.
Any other questions? Thank you. The biennium work plan budget, Brent, who's going to give that? Tab M?
Yeah, those are just the updates of the existing work plans. I would note that the 25-27 biennium work plan, we are working, when I say we, Garrison team, Black and Veatch, and Lawa, Todd, Bruce, myself, to look at now making some updates and some options that will come before the various committees and leadership with the federal funding. So knowing that those dollars we're going to be adjusting that work plan because we have the option to do more now. But we don't, that's a work in progress right now. It's nothing to bring forward at this time.
So tab M, N, and O would be for information for us at this
Correct.
time, and those will be updated by next meeting.
We'll see if we get them where we're at, but we're working diligently on that. But that is the plan, is because a lot of it is also waiting to figure out, which the next item on your agenda is that federal funding update, is knowing that 150, when that money is going to become available, and so that we can schedule work based off of that funding.
The Water Topics was held on Thursday, in which we gave an update. We did not fully impact the federal funding because we wanted to, the team has to kind of look at that when we talk to, do we do it all with McCluskey Canal, do we do a pipeline, or where do we go with that funding? Kip had a heart attack when I said, can we move up the completion date to 30? So we're kind of looking at different things that we can do. The difficulty we have is the Senator got us money from the big beautiful bill, which would basically be $100 million. That money we feel is pretty much there. We feel we have that. The 50, we don't know when we're going to get that in hand, in our hands to spend. So we do feel that the $100 million we have to start looking at by the June meeting, where would we spend that and where would the best bang for the buck be. The difficulties we've had on the electric is how fast can you get that built, and I'm glad you're meeting every other week to start to put some heat to the fire, because the electric has to know we can't build a plant and not have electricity, so that's going to be critical to our growth. But Holven's been masterful in finding the money. He has a time frame in which the $454 million he has on his time frame would be coming out by 2030, and we're trying to put that into what kind of work plan can you do to do that. If you look at there was a question by Nelson yesterday, are we going to stay at the 75-25? And I think we have to do some education of the legislative team of that's a committed 75-25. There's no commitment to do different. But if you look at their $954 million intent, basically if you throw the 454 from the feds, that drops our 75 down considerably to where the state will have a gift from us, from feds, of at least $300 million. So that will really decrease the amount the state has to go into. So if you really go into that 75-25 commitment, they are going to be considerable less than 75. And so are our locals. So that's going to help on, Dave, to your question, is how much is it going to cost me? Well, we're knocking off at least $108 million from the local cost share. So that will help us going forward considerably. So if you ever see Holven, give him a hug and say thank you, thank you. So it's a great gift to the project, and if we can continue to do that, I'm very happy. Brent, any other topic? Did I miss anything on that?
But on the federal
water topics discussion, if you would.
I'll cover water topics. So yeah, yesterday they had a joint meeting with the Water Topics Committee and the State Water Commission, where they received the governance and finance draft report. And it was a draft. Deloitte consultants reviewed that. I'll keep it very high level. It's right now, it's like an 87-page document that was out there, and then they went through the PowerPoint. Obviously, it wasn't just about Red River. They also had Southwest and NAS was part of that study. The way that Deloitte approached it was they came on all of the regional systems with basically 3 options for consideration for the Red River Valley Water Supply Project. Their first option was basically no major changes, just enhance and work to improve relationships with DWR, helping to improve relationships and decision-making processes for the project with Garrison and Lake Agassiz. The second option was where the State Water Commission and DWR would have an official role in the project, whereas right now, like what I'd say option 1 is, and what option 1 really matches a lot of what we've been doing the last 3 months, where DWR has been more active and has taken the role of leading that operations work group. I would say that's really is what option 1 is. Option 2, the State Water Commission would have an official role where they basically said there should be a committee that helps to funnel decisions through. And then option 3 that they presented was that the state would take ownership of the project. So it would become more like a Southwest project where the state would own and operate the asset. And so those were the 3 options that were presented by Deloitte. There were questions asked throughout the presentations. Deloitte presented a second study on cost share policy, which this project, as Chair Mahoney mentioned, the question gets asked, what happens if our cost share changes? Well, cost share policy in the study that they did on cost share policy is the policy of the State Water Commission. The Red River Valley Water Supply Project's cost share is in statute. That has been approved by the legislature. So that it's a little different, but a lot of times that's that educational process is reminding people that that's a commitment that the state made statutorily towards this project and how the users have perceived that from the very beginning in regards to affordability for the local users. So I think that's just an education thing that has to continue because that question did get asked. Another question that was asked during the study on the governance is, it was asked, what about an option of LAWA having the ownership of the project? And the consultant said, due to the, I can't remember their exact words, but basically, we're not completed yet, so they didn't really look at that as an option. And I'm not sure, I think later this afternoon, we have a meeting with DWR as a follow-up to that study. DWR scheduled a meeting ahead of time with all of those affected by the studies as kind of like, hey, what's your initial feedback and stuff? And I think we'll try to get a little bit more what they're meant by that. But that was kind of the overall of it. I think to Bernie, your question, kind of the vibe in the room towards the project and stuff, there's kind of different levels. There's those that understand, right? So that they understand some of the complexities and the dynamics within the project, and they recognize that there's been challenges and they want to see some improvement. I do think that with all of with those legislators, what they have seen with Reese stepping in, they are appreciative of that, and they think that's a very positive thing. So I think DWR's role here is helping us, and Reese, and I'm going to kind of look out in the audience here with Kip because we've had meetings with him. I think Reese has been I'd almost say a breath of fresh air and helps us keep things moving forward for both Garrison and LAWA. So I think that's a very good step. There are legislators that still like to take shots at this project because of just the size and the cost of it. And when it takes that money from the Resources Trust Fund, their projects aren't getting funded. And that's where we hear those questions about, well, maybe they should, why does, as an example, cost share was recommended to go down to maybe 50% as a cap on any project in the state. That was one of the options in the cost share policy, and we would still get 75%. And they're like, why is that fair? So those are the types of things that we just have to always be aware of. The federal money will help reduce that, which will soften that a lot, that argument. But
Mr. Dardis.
Brent, you talk about the 75-25 split, and that's in state statute. So the federal money that Mayor Mahoney has been talking about, who's going to claim that?
So that is
$100
actually
million. Is the state going to claim that, or are we as the local going?
That is actually in state statute as well. That was passed this last session in law where it's 75%, the state gets credit, and we get, as the locals, get 25%.
Same split.
Same split.
Thank you.
We're trying to do 50-50, Bernie, but that wasn't real popular.
So, any other questions about water topics? I know that governance study's got 2 more months of, so they'll be probably getting more feedback and finalizing, and then where they go with that.
I guess the question I have would be, how can we access that information? I was online yesterday and I watched it and I was able to print out parts of the presentation. So there's a website we can go to in the state and then get that information?
Yeah, when I will send the direct link to the report because I sent out to the LAWA board and the committee members an email with the link to the legislative website where you could join the meeting. And in the agenda is clickable links for the reports, but I will send a direct link to the report on the governance study just to make that a little easier for everyone.
That'd be great. Any unfinished business?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I did print out the part that pertains to the River Valley project here, and it was kind of an eye-opening thing when you start reading things in here that talk about there's a significant conflict between the two bodies due to disagreements and financing authority and representation. And so I'm just forewarning you, if you get this information, it doesn't, some of these things do not reflect well for our coordination and cooperation between LAWA and Garrison in the report from a third party doing the study.
And that's really going to be the work executive to correct some of that, Tom, and I think we're working hard with Garrison over this next year to correct some of those issues that have been brewing out there. We would hope that would go better. I think it's one of the goals of 26.
And I agree. Us as board members need to be supportive of this, because there was conversation when Dwayne gave his presentation about one of the commissioners said, well, what if we go to a 50-50? Well, Dwayne said that would more than likely eliminate all the small users, plus it would jeopardize even Fargo and Grand Forks' position going to a 50-50. But I guess he wasn't aware of the fact that there's a statute that says it's 75-25.
Yeah, I felt that it's a statute, it makes it a lot different, and I think we'll have to, and bring that information back to the legislator that asked that question, if not the whole committee, Tom, because that was the same thing. Don't start changing that ratio. Yes, Mr. Carver.
Reese and John were at our place because we have a screw-up in our TA permit, and they're fixing it. Okay, it's not going anywhere or anything, it's just putting it in line with everyone else's. But there was talk of playing nice in the sandbox and tagging on Tom's comments there. So it is important.
They didn't tell you to play nice, they were telling somebody else to play nice.
No, I was the only one there.
Oh.
I can't get out of that one. But it is noticed, and we need to do our best.
Thank you. So that'll be my unfinished business that we had, just covered there at that. Brent, the reserve fund annual meeting, is that something that?
Yeah, I'll handle kind of the next three items. Just passed out down the table here, the Endorf annual meeting is coming up, and LAWA is a member and has the ability to vote there. Sometimes we have had Dwayne vote on behalf of LAWA. Sometimes, when I was talking to Lisa, she said Mayor Erdman or Mayor Mahoney has sometimes done the votes on behalf of LAWA. So just wanting to know, we probably should make a decision so we know who's going to cast that vote on behalf of LAWA for the Endorf meeting.
I have a conflict that day. I'll be in Bismarck, but I'll be on the Missouri River for a 10-day fishing event.
Don't you have Wi-Fi on your boat? Yeah, we'll make sure we have representation.
Yeah. So we can follow up with possibly make sure that Dwayne is going to be there, or if one of the other mayors here is going to be in attendance.
I'll figure out one of our mayors to be there.
Okay. The next one is the LAWA Finance Advisory Committee member change. When we restructured the bylaws, we had the appointments to the various committees. We appointed Gwen Crawford, the city administrator from Valley City, on the FACT committee. Talking with her, she has not been able to make the meetings because of conflicts. And so I talked to Mayor Carlsrud and Gwen. They recommended the finance director from the city of Valley City, Brenda Klein. I talked to her. She is willing to do that, but that would take since the board appoints that would take a board motion to approve Brenda Klein to replace Gwen Crawford on the Financial Advisory Committee.
Have a motion.
Here. Second, Carlsrud.
You want to be on that one, don't you, Dave? Yeah. A roll call vote, please. Or actually, I could do this by affirmation. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
All right. And then the final item was passed out is a resolution for Levon Altoff and her time serving on the board here. And
I'll have Mayor
appreciation.
Boshinsky read that.
All right. Resolution of appreciation recognizing Levon Altoff of Southeast Water Users District for her dedicated years of service. Whereas the Lake Agassiz Water Authority has benefited from the dedication and leadership of individuals who have faithfully served to advance reliable, high-quality water supplies for communities across North Dakota. And whereas Levon Altoff, representing the Southeast Water Users District, has served on the LAWA board with distinction, bringing valuable perspective, thoughtful insight, and a strong commitment to regional collaboration. Whereas throughout her tenure, serving since the inception of LAWA, Ms. Altoff has demonstrated consistent support for the mission and goals of LAWA, contributing to sound decision-making and long-term planning efforts that strengthen regional water sustainability. And whereas her service reflects a deep understanding of the importance of cooperative water development and responsible stewardship on behalf of the citizens served by LAWA. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lake Agassiz Water Authority duly assembled in Fargo in the state of North Dakota on March 27, 2026, hereby expresses sincere appreciation and gratitude to Levon Altoff for her dedicated service, leadership, and contributions as a member of the LAWA board. Be it further resolved that LAWA recognizes and thanks Ms. Altoff and the Southeast Water Users District for their continued commitment to advancing regional water solutions that benefit present and future generations.
You have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
And is there a second?
Second, Bigwood.
And I do this again by affirmation. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. It is amazing that Levon has been with us for that length of time and has faithfully made, as far as I know, made every meeting that she committed to and has been a good member of this group. And we're very much going to miss her. So. Well, Dave, I think I got you in time for lunch. You wanted to go lunch somewhere. I got a couple good restaurants I could recommend to you, all in Fargo, not in West Fargo. But if you would like that, I could help you out with that.
My expense voucher isn't what yours is.
So we stand adjourned. Thank you.